Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Extra Time, a little bonus feature to complement the main session with some questions and reflections to ponder, either on your own or with your choice of company. As always, linger on or leave out whatever questions you like, and there's a link to a written copy of the questions below this video if you'd find that format helpful. This week, well, we had our fingers in the shepherd's pie looking at the significance of these rural roamers in the Christmas story. We'll schmooze with these shepherds again shortly, but a starter for 10 to get us going today. Shepherds are very much at home in the countryside, but what about you? Do you prefer town or country life? And if you had the choice, in what surroundings would you like to live? Now, in this session, we began by exploring some of the ways shepherds and shepherding crop up in the Bible. And as we said, the Old Testament in particular is full of different people who were shepherds, as well as having famous passages like Psalm 23, where God is likened to a shepherd. It's interesting, though, that the shepherds who appear in the Christmas story are the last time in the Bible that literal, real-life shepherds are involved. Indeed, following their appearance, shepherds and shepherding are only mentioned as a metaphor or as imagery for something. So, for example, Jesus talks of a shepherd who goes after his lost sheep. But then, most famously, Jesus describes himself as the Good Shepherd, the one who lays down his life for his sheep. It's almost as if all the other mentions of shepherds and shepherding, whether real or imaginary in the Bible, find their fulfillment in Jesus as the ideal shepherd, the Good Shepherd, who is the ultimate protector and provider for us, his flock. And so with this in mind, how helpful do you find the imagery of Jesus as the Good Shepherd to be? And then secondly, can you come up with other more modern metaphors to describe the role Jesus plays in our lives? So for example, maybe have some fun thinking about the ways Jesus could be seen as, say, a personal trainer, a psychotherapist, a film director, and so on. See what you can come up with. Now, in this session, we explored the ways some scholars reckon the swaddling cloths and manger were a particular sign to the shepherds of the way Jesus himself was to be some kind of sacrificial lamb. We saw this particularly in light of the fact that these Bethlehem-based shepherds were responsible for tending sheep who would end up as unblemished sacrifices just down the road at the temple in Jerusalem. But there's another potential angle related to this idea, which requires us to dip into the Old Testament book of Micah. Now, it's worth knowing that Micah is one of the main prophets who made predictions about the birth of the Messiah, God's anointed one, including the location of his birth. For example, in Micah chapter 5 verse 2 we read this: "But you, Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times." And yet in the previous chapter, which again focuses on prophecies of what will happen when the Messiah comes, there's a more obscure prophecy concerning shepherds and his birth. Indeed, Micah chapter 4 verse 8 talks about the watchtower of the flock. Now, the Hebrew term we translate into English as watchtower of the flock is this: Migdal Eder. Migdal is tower, Eder is flock. Why is this significant? Well, the only other time that Migdal Eder is mentioned in the Bible is in Genesis chapter 35, verses 19 to 21, where we read this about the death of Jacob's wife, Rachel. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel, another name for Jacob, moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. So, we know Migdal Eder, this watchtower of the flock, is located somewhere near Bethlehem. Whereabouts though? Well, if we go back to that view from Herodium, from where we can see Bethlehem and the shepherd's fields, we can also see where Rachel's tomb is located, just by this clump of trees on the horizon here. Which means that Migdal Eder, this watchtower of the flock, is also located somewhere around here too. Now, who would use this watchtower of the flock? Yeah, that's right, shepherds. Shepherds who would be watching over their flock, which suggests that Migdal Eder was maybe being used by some of these very same shepherds who were watching over their special flock by night when the angel appeared to them with news of Jesus' birth. And so it seems to me that these shepherds were probably aware of this prophecy in the book of Micah, which named their watchtower as being connected with the coming of the Messiah, a prophecy which I imagine came to their minds when they visited the newborn Jesus, wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. And maybe this prophecy was something else which Mary treasured up and pondered in her heart. All in all, though, it's yet another small but significant way perhaps in which the circumstances of Jesus' birth would seem to be very much part of God's plan for how these Old Testament prophecies would be fulfilled. And so with this in mind, a question for us to consider. From all that we've seen, what are the key things you'll take away from the shepherd's experience of Jesus' birth? And then lastly for now, Luke's Gospel tells us of the shepherds that when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. And so a final question. How best might we spread the news about Jesus this Christmas time and beyond? Alright, we'll leave things there for today. Thanks very much for engaging with all this shepherding stuff. Hope it's been helpful. Till next time though, take care, and let's get together again soon. Alright, bye for now.